Okay, so the next part is getting the dirty water or outtake water out of these buckets into the reservoir. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a T-piece in. I'm not going to go to the terminal end like I was thinking at the beginning. I've got concrete blocks under here, and I don't want to try and make an elbow into another connector, down into another elbow. It's just going to be 4 or 5 pieces to get back into the reservoir underneath. This T-piece right here will actually let me just go about a foot straight down into the bucket. So that's probably what we're going to do. Let's get some T-piece on. So what I've done here is there is a couple marks where the T-piece is going to go. I've cut all the way into the join, and now I'm going to line up my cutter with the lines that I've made. There's one. There's 2. Now this should allow me to get here and here. And fasten together. There's your T-piece. And don't forget to put on the end cap. So we went under 6 inches. That's approximately right here, right on the logo. So we're going to punch a hole through the top, and that's where it's going to go. The return water or dirty water coming back into this hole here, we're going to pop another hole in, and that will give us the space to run the line from the pump and also the cable or the electrical cord out. So how do you know how full your reservoir is if you don't come along every single day and pop it open? Also, the problem is with our system is there's not very much clearance under there, because I wanted to have a nice large cooler under there for my reservoir, and as you can see, you can't see through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a little empty to full meter, and basically it's very simple. We're just going to take some 5/8 tubing, run it into a couple brass, I'll put the links below, brass connectors, so you've got one spacer to make through the side wall, you've got an elbow, and then just another vertical pipe tubing thread to a piping thread. So anyway, that's going to end up going right through here, if you can see. And as the water goes down in the reservoir, then the water will also go down. The meter will go down here. So then we'll be able to just take quick looks and know where our water meter is, where our water level is, and it'll just make it easier for us. Just ran into a little bit of lady luck. I completely forgot or didn't even think about the outtake valve on these big coolers. So this is a Coleman cooler, and it has an outtake valve with some threading on it. And I've got a 5/8 inch coupling or extender, which is going to be the part that we were going to drill through the side here. I was going to stick this through, and then I was going to connect on to the elbow. Well, I just put this inside just to see what would happen, and it really snugs down. And when I torque on it, it twists right into there, and it's going to work perfectly. So this, with a little bit of caulking inside there, is going to save me drilling through the side piece, the side wall. So at a later date, you know, that's going to prevent more leakage. So pretty cool. This is basically what we're going to do. This is the outtake. It's going to be coming right back in here like this. And hopefully, I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing, but the water is going to go down, and as it fills up, you should see right here, if you want to come in close, starting to tell us how much water is in the cooler. All right, so that's a super fast, easy way of getting to know how much is inside this thing without having to rip it out all the time and drive yourself nuts. So this should make it really easy to be able to see how much is in, decide how much we want to add to it. Also, we'll be able to get a sample. If you want to just turn this down here, put a sample in your cup, and then you'll be able to check out your pH and all of your nutrient levels. And then, you know, we can just go ahead and refill, no problem. What we have now is we want to make the irrigation line feed into each bucket. So what I've decided to do was, originally I wanted to hang it along the top, maybe behind, but if you're actually working with something all the time, and there's tomatoes, and that's going to be a pain in the butt. So what I think is the best is to keep everything right here, table level. That way you can just handle it and work with it. And I think that'll be better for me. So what we're going to do is, on each end is going to be exactly the same. There's going to be a elbow, which is going to pop into each end. Okay. So each of those ends are going to have an elbow, which is going to give us the opportunity to run down, out, around, or later in the future do other things with it. On this end down here, I have a end cap on the elbow. So this elbow, these are Rainbird elbows and you know, irrigation pieces. This is a Rainbird cap. So you just pop the cap into the end there, and that's the end of the line. So they hold on really, really well. I've had them at pretty good pressures too. So let me pop this one in here. Then I will pop the cap in. Okay. So the next part is, I'm going to go ahead and secure down all of the irrigation line in a row. Okay, so trying to get the system to be easy for you on a day-to-day basis, or easy for me on a day-to-day basis, is you've got a big reservoir down here and you can't see through it, but we figured out the see-through part with the gauge to tell us how much is in there. But when we are adding water, or when we need to check the pump, or when we need to take it out, the problem is if you have all of these lines that are running really snug through these, you know, top holes, pulling it out can actually jumble and disassemble things. So what I've done was, I decided that we're going to put an elbow on the end here, another elbow just to keep it clean, and then we're going to run along from that elbow, okay, into this is a PVC adapter, compression adapter. So it goes from 0.70 tubing into a 1/2 inch coupling. And then what you do is you run another piece of your 1/2 inch PVC into that, like so. Okay. And then you're able to shove it into this quick disconnect, so that when you do the same thing on the other side, and you run in another, let's shove in another piece here while we're at it. Okay. There we go. So now what's going to happen is when it's time for us to do any maintenance or do whatever we want to do, you can just simply undo it. And then you can pull out what needs to be pulled out. You don't have to disrupt the whole system. So these are really, really interesting. I probably spent about $5, but when it comes to disconnecting things and messing up the ends, and sometimes these lines, even though, you know, everybody says that they don't leak, sometimes they leak. And the more that you manipulate them, it's just the same with everything else. You know, if it's a washer, if it's a gasket, if it's plastic, if it's rubber, after a while, manipulating things and wiggling and torquing on things, it does cause them to break down. So the less that you mess with it, the better it'll be. Anyway, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to go ahead and stick this end on here as well. This elbow connector. It's kind of short, so you got to shove it in there kind of tight. Let me see if I can push it on the ground. And then I'm going to connect this one onto here to give us that 90-degree elbow that we were talking about. Okay. And then our quick disconnect will come under. Move the plastic out of the way. And I'm going to shove this one together. Okay. So now this whole assembly is under here, very clean, out of the way. And when it's time to run this into the tank, all we have to do is do a disconnect of the valve, of the union. It's called a PVC Union. So there we go. So we've got our outtake, we've got our intake. Now I'm going to pop some holes along the lines into each bucket so that we can start running the fluid through the system. Okay, so real quick, I just wanted to go over, this is what I chose to use this time, just because it was real cheap on Amazon. If I can find the link, I'll throw it down there. It's just Vivo Sun submersible pump, puts out about 800 gallons per hour. I'm gonna be running 11 buckets on this side, and then simultaneously I'll be running also on the other side the same system. So for redundancy, I just went with 800. I know you can get up higher or lower, but what's really nice is on top of these, they have a real nice threading into a 5/8 inch top, and they're all adjustable. So there comes with 3 or 4 adjustable nozzles, and that will pop perfectly right in here. And you can throw a hose clamp on there if you want or not, but super easy, runs right in, not a big deal. The next part, or the final part actually, to getting the tubing set is, here's our pump inside the reservoir. Okay, so it's going to be sitting there. Like we said, we just connected on to the irrigation tubing. And because I'm trying to run a straight line, you don't have to put in all these connections and cables if you don't, and connectors if you don't want to, but I really like the ability to run them straight, and it's kind of nice to have everything really easy accessible and easy to disconnect instead of having things loop. Because what'll happen is if you just run the line or the irrigation hose straight down in without putting any connectors in, what's going to happen is it'll run down into this reservoir or into your reservoir, and basically the line is going to have enough tension on it to keep your pump all over the place. So your pump is going to go all over the place. I know that you can put little suction cups that come with these things, but the suction cup is not going to hold the tension of one of these lines pulling on it constantly. And then you'll have more water in your reservoir underneath your pump, and then you can also, suck up other things that you don't want to be sucking up. You want it to be nice and flat the way that the pump was designed. So that's what we'll do, is get this through here. Also, your power cable needs to be coming out and easily accessible. And take an elbow, shove the elbow right down on there, and that gives you a nice flat pump on the inside, easily accessible. And again, just to remind you, we put the disconnect on here. So if you want to do a quick disconnect to pull this in and out, you can do that just like this to pull it free instead of moving this while this is all under here and finally locked down. That will probably be the best, quickest, and also best looking system to keep it just clean for you. Real simple. This is just a little popper tool. It'll pop the holes into the irrigation lines. So we're gonna pop one for each bucket. Something I like to do is I like to be able to work with one bucket at a time, or I like to be able to shut off certain buckets. Say I want to clean this bucket and I want everything to keep going. I don't want to have to shut off the system or pinch the line. What I do is I take one of these little shut-off valves, and each bucket has its own valve. So everything can be independent in the system, and that way you will be able to clean, change, stop, or run the ones that you want. So this is 1/4 inch tubing, which has a 1/4 inch shut-off valve, which can poke right into the 1/2 inch irrigation tubing, and we'll pop them all in and see how it goes. All right, well, it's the moment of truth. So let's plug her in, see if it all works. Kind of excited. So, oh, I hear it. I hear it going. So, all right, she's going. She's going. All right, it's going all the way along. Very cool. So each one is going, and they're filling, and then they're gonna drain. Anyway, I'm pretty excited, so I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed the video and the process. Like, subscribe, hit that little notification bell. You know, I've had a lot of fun doing this. The hardest part was actually filming it and then editing it to come, rather than putting it all together. So I hope you enjoyed it, and check us out.